everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Darian, aka LOL Not Darian, on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Please follow me on all my social media, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and comment down below how you like this video. So, as you can see, I have a different background. I'm in my man's house in his office right now. Let's get into this video. So basically the first scene, we have Sazz, and she is doing an interview about being a stunt double. And I guess this is a documentary that was filmed, it looks like it was filmed like back in like the 70s or 80s or something. And it's, you know, basically just, I guess, stunt doubles talking about their experience, talking about their work and everything like that. And so you see Sazz talking about her work, her being a daredevil, not a daredevil, a stunt double for Charles, and then also talking about how her dad was actually the one that got her into it. And you see a cute little scene, obviously it's not you know, of Jane Lynch, like, you know, way back when, like how they had it in the first episode, they had like baby Selena Gomez and baby Steve Martin and baby Martin Anthony. But you do see like a girl who's supposed to be Sazz playing with her dad, and she gets knocked off the fucking trampoline by her dad, and she just comes back in the camera and was like, I get it, yeah, you know. Just so cute. So then it cuts away to Charles, Mabel, and Oliver being in the apartment, in Charles' apartment, and he has Sazz all over his hands, which is like, you know, I can't even imagine, like, that would be absolutely fucking traumatizing. Like one of your best friends, their fucking ashes being, oh my god. And it's like, it's not even on some, like, you know, funeral shit, like you expected them to be cremated, like you just, bro, yeah. So, and he is trying to figure out what to do with his hands. He doesn't want to wash his hands because he feels like that's disrespectful. He doesn't want to wipe because, you know, so he ends up rinsing her off into a bowl and then pouring her into a mason jar. And as soon as he does that, Sazz actually pops up, and it's like obviously a figment of his imagination, but it's probably the best way his mind can figure out how to cope with the fact that he just found his best friend literally burned like to ashes in the bottom of his fucking apartment building, bro. And then Oliver Oliver is so fucked when he was like, well, you could just keep Sazz on your hands and then, you know, you'll forever have Sazz hands. I don't know why that had me fucking weak. Especially when it was like, I'd like to take that one back. Oliver is so fucking funny, you guys. So then the intro happens, obviously, and then the next scene is Mabel and Oliver in the kitchen, and it's them trying to figure out which apartment across the way could have been the one that had the sniper in it. So you see, like, obligatory cat cam. She's getting huge. Mabel's laying on the floor. Oliver's like freaking out because he still has, like, you know, Sazz all over him. But they're both trying to figure out where this sniper could have came from. And that's when we find out that actually the west side of the Arconia has been blocked off from the rest of the Arconia because apparently somebody had a brothel in there at one point. But that's like where a lot of like the newer tenants are, the people that rent instead of the ones that actually own a unit in the Arconia. And so they asked Charles about, like, you know, who are the tenants that you have across the way. And he says that he has Stink-Eye Joe, I think that's what he called him, Stink-Eye Joe, the Saucers, the family that is always making some fucking sauce, the Christmas all year round guy, or Christmas forever guy, and then the apartment whose blinds are always down. So they basically tell Charles, like, hey, you're gonna have to stay here while we go investigate, because why else would somebody shoot Sazz in your apartment while she's dressed as you? You know what I mean? Like, obviously they're after you. And at first he's like, you know, trying to deny it because he thinks that it'll make him feel more guilty, which it might, because if he would have just went to his apartment himself instead of Sazz would still be there. You know, of course, Charles would be gone, but at least Sazz would be there. And so he is trying to come to terms with the fact that it's actually him and that he's actually in danger. Also thinking, like, when are they going to call the cops? Like, they found Sazz's bones in the incinerator. Like, hello, police, 911, like... And, you know, I knew that they wanted to investigate and everything, but at the same time, it's like, this is an actual murdered body. Like, let's be realistic here. Somebody needs to call fucking cops. So Charles was like, okay, you know, let's start calling the cops. And Mabel and Oliver, you know, asked him to hold off on it or whatever. Thankfully, they were on hold. Which is, like, sad when you think about it. Not just, like, not with the show, but, like, in the grand scheme of things, because that's actually how it is. People do get put on hold with the fucking 911 operator. But, yeah, so he calls, he gets put on hold. I think, like, at one point they showed the call, and it was, like, it said 4 hours. But Mabel and Oliver go to the west side of the Arconia, and they tell Charles to stay there, lock the deadbolt, stay in the home, because he's obviously the target. And so, and then he's also, at some point, he's also, like, talking to Sazz, like, obviously imagination Sazz, and Charles and Mabel are like, bro, this man is losing his mind. Like, he's losing his shit. And I mean, like, can you blame him? He just found his best friend's ashes in the incinerator at the bottom of his apartment building and realized that that should have been him. So, like, obviously he's losing his mind. You know, who wouldn't lose their mind? Oh, and then I forgot, they also order luminol. Charles orders a thing of luminol to be sent to his house from Amazon. So they also tell him to, like, wait in the house to wait for the package to come. They also go through the notes that they found at Sazz's apartment. So there was a note that said sick pup, another one that had a bunch of random numbers on it, and then one more that said Dudenoff. So they are trying to figure out, like, what the fuck all of this means. When Charles is in the apartment by himself, he is, like, you know, basically having a little heart-to-heart with Sazz, or, you know, imagination Sazz. And while they're having a heart-to-heart and he's making the murder board, he hears something in the closet. So, y'all, he opens the fucking closet, and who is it? None other than fucking Jan. Like, of course it's fucking Jan, because who else would it be? Basically, Jan is there to figure out what happened to Sazz. She broke out of fucking prison. She got blood all over her and shit. And she's asking Charles, like, do you know what happened to Sazz? And he was like, you know, if I tell you, don't kill me. And she was like, I will kill you if you don't tell me. He was like, okay, you know, good point. So while all that is happening, Will and Oliver, they get to the West Tower, and they are, you know, going to go meet the neighbors. And so they knock on Stink Eye Joe's door, and they find out this man actually has pink eye, and that's why his eye is always like that. And he's, like, touching, you know, he touched Oliver, and Oliver was like, oh. And so, like, you know, they find out that he's actually, like, a big fan of the podcast, and he's, like, more than happy about the movie being filmed there. And he invites them over to the neighbors to play a game called, what was it? I think it's called Oh Hell. He invites them over to the neighbor's house for a card game. And while they're walking to the neighbors, they see the apartment that perpetually has its blinds down has a padlock on it with a code. So they're like, you know, they make note of it, and they go to the neighbor's house, which is the Saucers. So when they get to the Saucers, they actually find out that, like, the Saucers are super nice people. And the mom in the Saucers, she is actually, like, absolutely in love with Charles. And, like, that's, like, her hall pass. And and it's just like, I'm like, whoa. They find out that the reason why the Saucers is always, like, looking at Charles' apartment is because the mom is in love with Charles and always, like, wants to get a little sneak peek of him. And then also when they're at Stink Eye Joe's place, that's when they find out that the windows are actually painted shut. So the people on the east end of the Arconia, the ones that actually own their apartments, they can open their windows, but the renters on the west side cannot, or the Westies. They can't open their windows, which basically automatically rules out Stink Eye Joe and the Saucers because their windows are still painted shut. So Vince is Stink Eye Joe, Inez is the mom of the Saucers, Alfonso is the dad, and Anna is the daughter. So I need to remember those because I'm horrible with names, you guys. I'm absolutely horrible with names. So they go play Oh Hell, and while they're playing Oh Hell, they're like, you know, asking them questions, and Anna, the daughter, says that she could use a little pick-me-up, and she asks, is the knife in the bathroom? And the dad's like, yes. And she goes into the bathroom, comes back out. The dad's like, you know what, I could use a pick-me-up as well. So he takes the knife about like this damn long, goes into the bathroom, comes back out. I feel like anybody with any sense probably thought like, are they doing like extreme coke in there or something? I thought they were doing coke, and I was like, I mean, because it's New York, you know, so I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's pretty norm, you know. I was wrong. So then they cut back to Charles and Jan being in his apartment, and he's told Jan that Sazz is dead, and you know, she's going through the motions and everything. She basically tells him the only reason somebody would get rid of a body if they didn't get their right target, because they they don't want their target to know that they're onto them and that, you know, there's somebody after them or whatever. And then Charles, he was talking about how whenever he and Sazz would do a scene together and it was time for Sazz to come do the stunt, the director would yell freeze, and Charles would freeze directly and like exactly in the position that he was in. And then Sazz would come in his place and yell tap in, and she would do the stunt while he had a bottle of Fresco. You go to the next scene and you see Mabel and Oliver still at the Saucer's house, and Oliver finally wins a hand or whatever, so they give him the opportunity to go into the bathroom and get the little pick-me-up. And so he goes in there, and it's this big ass like pig leg, I guess, just hanging on the bathroom shower rod. And I'm like, what the fuck? And Oliver's like, what the fuck? And he like tells Mabel like, oh, don't worry, it's ham, like it's ham in here. And she's like, ham? And they're all just like, you know, cracking up, tickle pink, right? So then Mabel brings up the apartment with the padlock on it, the one whose blinds are always closed from Charles' point of view. And she asks, you know, do you guys know who lives there? Anna says, oh, that's Dudenhoff. Inez kicks her under the table, and they all just kind of get silent. All of like the neighbors of the Saucers and Vince, all four of them get silent. They don't want to talk about it anymore. It's kind of like, you know, weird, because it's like what are you hiding? Yeah, so they, you know, don't say anything or whatever, and Mabel and Oliver realize like, okay, if we want to get any more information, we are gonna have to do some more snooping ourselves, because they don't want to talk. Jan reveals to Charles that Sazz was actually looking into somebody in the Arconia that was basically a danger to Charles. He had no idea. He, you know, hadn't heard anything about that from Sazz, so he was a little like weirded out, and that's when he like finally realized that he was the target, or not realized, but that's when he finally had to come to terms with the fact that he was the intended target of it. So basically when Charles and Jan are in the bedroom, you know, talking about everything, Mabel and Oliver get back to his apartment, so Jan goes back into the closet. Charles opens the door. He tries to tell them like, hey, you know, and he goes and opens the closet, and they're like, you know, what? And he's like, bro, I swear Jan was just fucking here. Like, she was just here. And they were like, sure. Because like they literally just had a conversation about Jan being in prison. So they're like, Jan's in prison. Like, you know, this man is losing his mind. He's like, bro, no, I swear to God, she was just in there. Like, he was like, no, I'm not crazy. I mean, I might be a little bit crazy, but I'm not that damn crazy, okay? She's in there. So that happens. Charles and Mabel, why do I keep calling him Charles? Oliver and Mabel go and look at the murder board, and they see the sticky note with all the random numbers that we talked about at the beginning. They are like, oh, maybe we could use these numbers to get into the Dudenhof apartment. So they tell Charles, wait here, don't open the door for nobody, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go back over there and see if we can get into the apartment using these numbers. So they get there and it is literally run the fuck down. Okay, it is so run down. It looks like it survived a few wars and lived to tell a tale. Like it looked like a bomb shelter in there. It looked bad. So they go in and they realize that the paint is actually scratched off the windows, so the windows are able to open in that apartment. They see shoe prints on the radiator. He also finds a piece of tinsel by the radiator, which alludes to Christmas Forever guy might have something to do with it. While he's looking, Mabel's still looking all around, and she calls his name from the bathroom. And when they go in there, they find a pig. They find a pig in the bathtub just like sitting there. So strange, right? And they also find a ham radio. I forgot. So, because Mabel was like, it's a lot of ham. You know, the ham hock hanging from the bathroom, the ham radio, and now we find an actual pig in here. Then they hear the door of the apartment trying to open. It obviously was whoever owns that apartment or frequents that apartment, but unfortunately Oliver made some noise and ended up scaring them away. So when they opened the door, there was nobody there, and the pig actually ran out. Didn't bother chasing the pig. They were like, let's let the pig go. Like, it deserves to be free, da da da. The next scene is Charles basically just sitting on the floor talking to Imagination Sazz. He gets a message that his package had been delivered, or his, order had been delivered, and it was the luminol. So he was like, let me just hurry up, go down there real quick, tell Lester not say my name, don't look at me, just give me the package, da da da. So as soon as he opens the door, the fucking SWAT team flood in and they're looking for Jan. So then Detective Williams comes in and asks him if he's safe. She tells him, they're looking for Jan, and so like after she says, Jan escaped in front of Mabel and Oliver, who also were coming in at the same time as the cops. Charles turns to Mabel and Oliver and he's like, see, I told you, I fucking told y'all, bro, she was here. Like, I don't know why y'all don't believe me. And that's when Detective Williams asks him, like, she was here and you didn't say anything, you didn't report it, that's a crime, she's supposed to be in prison, blah, blah, blah. And that's when the 911 operator finally gets back to him, and Detective Williams is at the same time asking him, like, is there anything you need to tell me? And he's on the phone with the 911 operator, and he basically tells them that he needs to report a murder. So after he says that, Mabel tells Detective Williams that they need to check the incinerator. Sazz is in there, or whatever is left of Sazz is in there. So when the police go down to the basement, to the incinerator to look, Charles, Mabel, and Oliver are about to spray the luminol when Charles says, like, just give me a second, I need a second. So he goes into the bedroom. He has one last heart-to-heart with Sazz in this episode. I hope she's coming back. I hope she's like, with him the whole season. I feel like she will be. And he's just basically saying, like, you were the friend that brought me all the friends that I have today, and I am so, like, thankful for you for that. Like, you're my oldest friend. And it was really sad and really, really bittersweet. I feel so bad for Charles, you know what I mean? But because this man can't catch a break. First, his, like, ex-girlfriend was a serial killer and tried to kill him too, and then like now he has to deal with his best friend being murdered accidentally because of him, so I know he's like going through it. And yeah, so they just had like one more heart-to-heart in this scene before he goes back out to see Mabel and Oliver spraying the luminol, and they see the pool of blood, so they can actually accurately assess where Sazz was and where she got shot from, which, I mean, at this point they already know. I feel like it might be like a twist later on in the season, and that they actually didn't shoot Sazz from the Dudenhoff apartment. I feel like they shot her from one of the other apartments. They finally, in the very last few seconds, they see that Sazz actually wrote Charles a message in blood, and the message was tap in. Editor Darian, it occurred to me just now that tap in, I know it's so trivial. I know like everybody was like, oh, you didn't get that. But it finally occurred to me that Sazz said tap in her last final message because she planned to go there. She knew that Charles was probably about to be killed. So she went to his apartment to get the wine, and you know, her note tap in was her basically telling him that she did her final stunt for him as his stunt double. Oliver had knocked down the numbers on the sticky note, and it actually wasn't just a bunch of random numbers. It actually spelled "oh hell" upside down, which is the card game that they were playing with the Westies across the Arconia. Like I said, I know somebody in my comments on my last video said that like not statistically, but like usually they always show the murderer in the very first episode in some way, shape, or form. But I absolutely feel like they are switching it up this time around, and that it will be, I don't think it's one of the neighbors, but I think one of the neighbors has to do with it, because I don't see how the neighbors and the people in Hollywood connect in any type of way right now. But I think that's also the point. But I do wish they would have spoken to Christmas Forever guy. I hope they talk to him in the next episode, which I feel like they will. Yeah, I really don't have any theories just yet. This is an interesting one. It's an interesting one, but at the same time, I feel like Only Murders, I'm always like off until like the last few episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your theories in the comments below. Who do you think did it? Who do you think did it? Sorry I'm low energy today. I'm tired. I've been drinking all weekend because it was Labor Day weekend. And I'm tired. So yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.